Ladies and gentlemen, members of the media, my colleague, Permanent Secretary Harcourt Brown, good afternoon, and welcome to the report by Senator the Honorable J. Kwesi Thompson. As you will hear, Minister Thompson's portfolio is peculiar in that it spans Office of the Prime Minister, Grand Bahama, and the Department of Transformation and Digitization, which is the Information and Communications Technology arm of government and is located in OPM, Cable Beach. Included in his remit is the project to digitize government services. The permanent secretary with responsibility for OPM in Grand Bahama is Mr. Harcourt Brown. I now welcome Senator the Honorable J. Kwesi Thompson to give us his report, after which we will entertain questions.
Thank you very much, Permanent Secretary Delancey. Ladies and gentlemen, and members of the media, pleasant good afternoon. I wish to first thank God, not just for the privilege to serve, but to serve in such a time as this. It has been a humbling experience to lead during and in the aftermath of the most destructive storm in our history and the worst pandemic of our lifetime. But it has been said that the only difference between stumbling blocks and stepping stones is the way you use them. I want to also thank the Prime Minister for reappointing me to the Cabinet with responsibilities for Grand Bahama, electronic communications, and e-commerce. These also include the oversight of the Office of the Prime Minister in Grand Bahama, the Department of Transformation and Digitization, the Digital Transformation Unit, and the newly approved E-Commerce Advisory Board. I also want to thank both permanent secretaries, that is Elise Delancey, as well as Harcourt Brown, and the entire staff that resides in New Providence and the staff in Grand Bahama for their dedicated service. Ladies and gentlemen, 2020 continues to be a year of total transformation, much of it by force. The Bahamas is no different from many countries around the world managing the impact of the COVID-19 pandemic. Governments now more than ever are balancing the health of their citizenry while keeping economies afloat and maintaining their ability to provide the necessary government services. As the country looks to recover through hurricane catastrophes and through this pandemic, innovation is imperative to not just be competitive, but to survive. Innovation requires that we travel towards a digital Bahamas. First, the government's approach to our digital Bahamas is guided by the recently approved Electronic Communication Policy document. This is in accordance with the Communication Act, which outlines our policy objectives for the next 3 years. This document was prepared by IRCA in conjunction with DTAD. I invite the public to view this document online at www.ircabahamas.bs, publications/Electronic Communication Sector Policy 2020-2023. The policy speaks to creating a modern digital society that facilitates the growth and expansion of the Bahamian economy. The Department of Transformation and Digitization, the government agency with responsibility for ICTs for the whole government, is currently structured to deliver 6 areas of service and support. governance and planning, business solutions, service management, technical support, communications, and finally, a separate project execution unit within DTAD called the Digital Transformation Unit, which is charged with digital transformation of 200 government services over a 5-year period and is funded by an IDB loan. Since this fiscal year began, and since the onset of COVID-19, DTAD has engaged in the following agency projects. 1, replacing adequate and appropriate equipment lost during Hurricane Dorian. 2, ensuring business continuity in government during the COVID-19 pandemic by providing the environment for secure remote work by public officers. So the government implemented Cisco WebEx. We have also assisted the courts with online proceedings for court hearings, and the Ministry of Financial Services, Trade and Industry and Immigration held an impressive online symposium with over 350 attendees. They had multiple presenters and audience participation. 3, we assisted the Ministry of Health and continuing to assist the Ministry of Health with the development of a virtual COVID call center and a digital platform for contact tracing. During the first wave, we developed a SharePoint application. 3 training cohorts were conducted and a user manual was distributed. The site went live on the 2nd of April 2020 and was decommissioned on the 3rd of June 2020 after capturing over 500 calls. We subsequently assisted in the development of other applications for the Contact and Lab Investigation Unit to track confirmed cases and their contacts. 4, DTAD partnered with the Ministry of Social Services and Urban Development to ensure that social assistance programs became available online at socialassistance.bahamas.gov.bs. 2 of these have already been launched. That is the Food Emergency Plan and the Food Disaster Plan. The Ministry for Social Services, for the first time in our history, has begun to receive applications and give assistance online to avoid face-to-face contact where it is unnecessary and will improve its processing and response time. By the end of the year, we are pleased to say the ministry anticipates that all services will be available online. The ministry advises that they also completed a testing pilot with over 900 Bahamians providing rental assistance via digital currency using electronic wallets through various digital wallet providers. For food assistance, 305 confirmed persons have successfully converted to digital wallets, representing a monetary amount of over $130,000. 1,500 confirmed persons are set to be added to the digital platform in November, and that's going to represent over $300,000. There will also be 600 estimated persons who will convert during December, and that will represent over 120,000. Clients receive benefits through their electronic wallets, which can be accessed on their smartphones, and simply pay without paper vouchers, without a check, or without cash. 5, at the Passport Office, we accelerated the development and the launch of the Renewal of E-Passports online. It has gotten rave reviews. Many recall the public outcry with long lines during the summer months. But I invite you to visit mofa.gov.bs and follow the link to the passport renewal service. Avoid the line and save some time. Since the 1st of December 2019, the Passport Office has successfully executed almost 6,000 online e-passports. You no longer have to stand up on long lines and can now apply from the comfort of your home, 24/7. We are also assisting the Ministry of Works with the Electronic Plan and Review Information System, which, when implemented, will improve our ease of doing business ranking with issuing permits. 6, we are leading one of the most transformative digital initiatives at the heart of government, the Cabinet Office. If we want the government and the country to embark on a digital transformation, we must start from the top. We have commenced the implementation and training for the Bahamas Electronic Cabinet Management Information System, which will revolutionize cabinet procedures from end to end. This system will innovatively streamline the managerial operations. It will standardize and automate the cabinet memorandum and agenda approval. It will implement and advance security measures, and it will provide mobile and electronic accessibility for the Prime Minister, for ministers, the Secretary to the Cabinet, and permanent secretaries. It will also allow for the continuation of work regardless of your location. It will facilitate electronic collaboration between authorized users 24/7. And most importantly, for government procedures, it will generate cabinet conclusions and extracts at the end of the meeting for a faster approval and dissemination. It will also assist, we've also been assisting the Ministry of Finance and the Ministry of Public Service and National Insurance in the Public Financial Management Performance Monitoring Reform Project as the government's ICT lead for the procurement of a new financial management information system and a new human resource management system. 8, we've been assisting the Ministry of Education with the implementation of eNet, which is placing all government schools online. 9, we have also been providing technical advice to various other government agencies, including the Office of the Judiciary for ePay or eCourts Pay, the electronic payment processing system for court-ordered payments. And 10, we've been overseeing the allocation and provisions of cellular phones and fixed lines for all our agencies. Ladies and gentlemen, as the government of the Bahamas transforms how services are delivered, transactions conducted across the internet through government agencies and the private sector will inevitably increase. Information technology continues to be an integral part of our daily activities, and the risk of conducting general business over platforms like the internet cannot be ignored. As online usage increases, the chances of cybersecurity incidents also increase. However, it is imperative that we assess our current cybersecurity capabilities, that we develop a national cybersecurity strategy, and we establish a national computer incident response team, also called a CERT, to serve as a single trusted central coordinating point of contact for cybersecurity. This is aimed at identifying, defending, responding, and managing cyber threats. CERTs will provide greater protection, detection, response, and recovery as it relates to online criminal activity. To this end, we have now entered into a partnership agreement with the International Telecommunications Union. This is an agency of the United Nations to conduct, first, an assessment, but also, and more importantly, to implement a national CERT. We are in the process of building this CERT, building this team that will form the core of the CERT. And applications for the cybersecurity posts should be released shortly. The team will protect the national and economic security, the ongoing operations of government, and the ability of critical infrastructures to continue to function. They will monitor incidents at a national level and identify those incidents that could affect critical infrastructure. And then they will warn critical stakeholders about computer security threats and respond accordingly to those incidents. They will also help when it comes to critical information infrastructure recover from those incidents. All of these projects are being done in addition to the routine work of providing desktops, laptop equipment, copiers, and other communication equipment for all our agencies. Ladies and gentlemen, the Digital Transformation Unit within DTAD is working towards implementing 200 additional government online services on a single-use platform where persons can interact with a large cross-section of government ministries, departments, and agencies in the most effective way possible. Yes, we literally want to put the entire government at your fingertips. This means less time traveling to government offices, less time online. This means doing business with the government from the comfort of your home or smartphones. The ultimate goal of the integrated system is to make it faster and less expensive for citizens and residents, and those wishing to do business with the Bahamas to access government services, as well as to improve government revenue. Achieving this goal requires a significant amount of work across multiple agencies. The work will not happen overnight, but as the past year has demonstrated, the world can change overnight. This investment in technology will allow a greater access to services throughout the Commonwealth of the Bahamas. To this end, the Digital Transformation Unit, or DTU, has built, and I emphasize, has built, and is currently executing a 12-week pilot project and testing the processing of the first 4 online services on this single platform. To be clear, the interoperability platform allows agencies to digitally communicate and allows those users' information to be verified across the platform without the public having to move from agency to agency, picking up paper documents to carry from one agency to the next. The initial services being tested: an application for a certified copy of a birth certificate, an application for a certified copy of your death certificate, and a certified copy of your marriage certificate application. We want to also say that we are doing a driver's license online application, and we want to show you this video.
Welcome to our Government of the Bahamas online portal, and today we will be sharing some quick, easy steps for requesting government services online. We will start with requesting renewal of driver's license certificate. Log in to pilot.gov.bs, enter your email and password, and click Sign In. Enter OPT PIN number sent via email and select Enter. If email not received, please check your spam or junk folder. You will be taken to the Bahamas Citizen Portal dashboard. In the left-hand dashboard menu, select Road Traffic Department. From the drop-down menu, select License Renewal. On the right upper corner, click the yellow plus Request Driver's License tab. Fill in required information. Enter your driver's license number. Click the drop-down menu to select the license period, example 1 year or 3 years. Click the checkbox to indicate that all information is correct. Then click the Next button at the bottom right of the screen. In Payment section, enter cardholder's name, credit card number, expiration date, and CVC number located on the back of your card. Click the Next button located at the bottom right of your screen. Present your receipt with a valid government ID to the Road Traffic Department for pickup. For further information, you can reach us at the website listed below or our landline 604-4357 HELP or mobile 825-4321.
We have also built and currently testing additional online applications to be added. For example, not just the vehicle or not just your license, but we are also working on vehicle registration renewal and several other road traffic applications. We are working on a birth registration online application, on a death registration online application, the post office box rental, the money order, the police certificate. But we also expect that these will be available to the public in January. We will continue to add additional services after their testing phase is completed. Let me be clear though, Wave 1 of the pilot will be conducted with members of the public service only. This phase will allow for our technical team to conduct the end-to-end testing of the system across multiple agencies to ensure a seamless and secure user experience. But once fully tested, the DTU will officially launch the e-services portal to the general public. Key features of this online experience for applicants will include the ability for specific government services to be able to be used 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Persons also will be able to pay for those services online using a debit and credit card. They will also receive email notifications when the documents are ready for collection or when the service has been completed. Ladies and gentlemen, this year, the E-Commerce Advisory Board provided for in the Part 4, Section 22 of the Electronic Communications and Transactions Act was populated for the first time since the Act came into force. They are already making a positive contribution. We wish to announce the launch of a Technology Innovations Grant. We call it the TIG program, designed by the E-Commerce Advisory Board. That will support services specifically provided directly to micro, small, and medium enterprises to improve the management and modernization of their technologies and other digital application services. While this is a national program, it is a continuation of the GB Tech Grant started in Grand Bahama and will have a heavy Grand Bahama focus. These TIGs are not just for startup enterprises, but also for existing companies wishing to develop and employ new or innovative technologies for their businesses. The grant funding is $2,500. Undergirding all this is the presentation of a policy statement on electronic commerce or e-commerce and the Bahamian digital agenda. The board is now designing ways to implement this policy document. I want to tell you about the Digital Neighborhood Program. Many children are unable to return to school in the classroom because of social distancing, and as a result, the Ministry of Education has established a virtual learning platform for students to be able to continue their studies and to give them the ability to complete their schoolwork remotely, and also learning have been widely introduced in our daily lives. And many people throughout the country will now require access to crucial online services. Unfortunately, many households in certain communities lack access to the internet to facilitate their virtual learning and online educational activities. So the Digital Neighborhood Program is presently being coordinated in partnership with licensed telecoms, the Ministry of Education, the Department of Transformation and Digitization, and the Department of Social Services. The program will seek to bring free Wi-Fi and internet access to certain communities and neighborhoods and other open spaces throughout the country to allow the unserved communities of the Bahamas an opportunity to access the internet, to allow school children the opportunity to conduct their schoolwork and other social projects online. We will be saying more about this program in the coming weeks. I also want to tell you about some other government initiatives, and we want to highlight them and commend them for their activities. So we see the DRA, the Disaster and Reconstruction Authority, launched its completely online application for small home repair, where over 3,000 persons have registered and receive assistance, all by accessing their website and doing this online. We also see in the food assistance, the National Food Distribution Task Force allowed online applications for persons who are in need. And they were able to access this, again, completely online at feedbahamas.com. Cryptocurrency. The government's recent passage of the Digital Assets and Digital Assets Service Providers Bill in the House of Assembly creates regulation for a brand new industry in the Bahamas dealing with cryptocurrency and other digital assets. This now allows the Bahamas to market itself to this new industry, which brings us new opportunities. We also want to congratulate and commend the Central Bank. The new and innovative digital currency sand dollar promises to set the Bahamas apart, being one of the first countries to establish a national digital currency. Ladies and gentlemen, members of the media, I am excited and positive about a new digital Bahamas. And I invite you to join with us as we connect government to the people. I now turn to Grand Bahama. A little over a year ago, post-Hurricane Dorian and now during the COVID-19 crisis, Grand Bahama remains fully in rebuilding mode. We are rebuilding physical buildings, rebuilding businesses, rebuilding roads, and most importantly, we are rebuilding people and rebuilding lives. I would be remiss, though, if I did not take an opportunity to applaud the doctors, the nurses, the police, and other frontline workers in our community, in particular in Grand Bahama. The COVID-19 task force is headed by Dr. Greg Bartlett, and we want to say thank you to Dr. Bartlett and his team for the hard work and the continued dedication. I must also commend the efforts of residents of Grand Bahama for your discipline and responsibility. But it is also important that we acknowledge that we are still fighting the pandemic and must collectively do our part to keep the numbers down. We must not let our guards down. One of the major ways the government set out to offer assistance to combat the challenges presented by COVID-19 was the creation of the National Food Distribution Task Force, and subsequently, the Grand Bahama Food Distribution Task Force, or Feed Grand Bahama. This initiative was launched in the vision of the Prime Minister to ensure that we provide food security for as many as possible in light of our challenges. In total, 35,981 food vouchers were distributed across Grand Bahama during the first phase of the project, or the program, which recently was concluded in October 31st. This number represents some 6,690 homes that received assistance. The household count of 6,690 is also based on an average of 4 persons per household, which totals some 26,760 persons who would have benefited from this program. I want to show you a video from one of our distribution centers who spoke about the effect of this program.
Every day from Monday to Friday, we have about 40 to 50 persons come here every day looking for their coupons every day at the Reach Out Community Center. I am so grateful for the government for choosing Reach Out Youth Organization as one of the organizations to distribute the vouchers here in Grand Bahama. I could see the impact when folks come for their vouchers. You could see the joy in their face, saying how much they are so grateful, saying thank you so much. So I am one of those persons. This is what we do here at Reach Out, and anything to help families. I think this is one of the greatest initiatives the government could ever think about. Normally, when folks don't have a voucher, we still assist them, but we always wanted to be a part of anything to help families. And I think what the government did when they chose us, it enhanced us because it helped us to help more people. People understand the magnitude of this program. If we don't have this program, we'll have more people going to bed hungry. This is a great initiative. I am a component of it. I endorse it 100%. Unless people understand the magnitude of what this is doing. This is putting food on the table in this difficult time. So I just want to, like I reiterate, tell the government, thank you. I mean, from the bottom of my heart, it means so a lot to me because this is what we do year round, and to assist people. And what this is doing is helping us assist more people. COVID-19, what we have to understand, is affecting the world. It's not only just Grand Bahama. So I just want them to know just to hold on to God. God sees their pain. God understands the challenges. I think the government understands our challenges also. So I just want everyone just to hold on, stay safe, wear your mask, wash your hands. But one person will never leave us nor forsake us as Jesus. So at this time, a lot of families are not working. A lot of people might fall into depression, but I just want them to know God is here. He is a one person, like I said, will never leave you nor forsake you. So hold on. We are Grand Bahama strong. We went through Dorian. We still made it. We went through Matthew. We still made it. So COVID-19 came here to slow us down a bit, but COVID-19 can't destroy us.
Thank you very much, Dudley Said from Reach Out Ministries. The National Insurance Board assistance also, the National Insurance Board assistance, assisted the effects of Hurricane Dorian, as well as COVID-19. It placed some difficult strains on workers who had either reduced hours or were unemployed. The National Insurance Board has played a critical role in the lives of numerous Grand Bahamians who have been affected. Assistance associated with Hurricane Dorian unemployment alone amounted to some $3.9 million in Grand Bahama. The government's special unemployment assistance provided some $2.3 million of assistance in Grand Bahama. To date, some $20.5 million has been paid out through NIB in Grand Bahama to assist residents affected by Hurricane Dorian and by the COVID-19 pandemic. The Department of Social Services and also continues to work feverishly through the COVID-19 pandemic. We also saw the special Grand Bahama Recovery Zone concessions in an effort to provide continued relief and empowerment to the communities of Grand Bahama and Abaco. The government made the decision to extend these concessions, such as VAT exemptions, through the end of 2020 to assist residents as they work to rebuild their lives, and to assist business owners, particularly in the construction field, enabling them to capitalize on construction needs on the island. I want to talk a little bit about the Rand Memorial Hospital rebuild. Following the passage of Hurricane Dorian, several government structures suffered damage and are now in the process of being restored. One of the most crucial structures that required a major rebuilding effort was the Rand Memorial Hospital. Construction workers have been working tirelessly to complete rebuilding of the hospital. The Prime Minister also announced that $21 million would be allocated for the Rand Memorial Hospital. The hospital will begin to have some normalcy by late November, early December. The kitchen cafeteria, as you see here, building has been substantially completed with furniture and is being utilized while the cafeteria is about 90% completed. Medical surgical ward, or the COVID-19 isolation unit, is also completed and will be occupied this week. Each room can occupy up to 2 patients, is fully furnished with beds, tables, and equipped with oxygen outlets in the event a person requires them. This will also have a total of 7 more beds for COVID patients. There's been much development in the main hospital section building also. The main corridors, the pharmacy, the foyer, the pediatrics area will be ready for occupancy within the next 2 weeks. The main hospital entrance will also include a new portico, which is now ready for paving. Arriving patients will have access to be dropped off directly at the front door and protected from inclement weather. And anyone who is in Grand Bahama would know the challenges that we used to have getting into the front door with parking and so on. Some highlights of the new hospital rebuild: a new isolation center, a new pharmacy, a new pediatric ward, new ICU, new surgical ward, and new medical ward. Approximately 150 Bahamians are involved in the reconstruction of the Rand Memorial Hospital. While this will not give us a new hospital, it most certainly will give us a brand new Rand Memorial Hospital. I also want you to take a look at this video that shows us the hospital rebuild in detail.
I'm in Grand Bahama. They're going to be proud of their new hospital.
We are seeing the near completion of the first phase of our renovations. And within that first phase, we will have the pediatric unit, we will have the foyer area, the main entrance to our hospital, the main hall, the thoroughfare to our hospital that connects us back to the emergency room area. And we will also have our pharmacy services, a very important department for our community. The next part of the construction, which should be delivered to us in early to late November, will be our main clinical corridor. And within that main clinical corridor, we have our obstetric area, we have our neonatal care area, and that is our special care baby unit. We have our ICU, and we have the medical surgical ward, which definitely represent the majority of the adult population within our hospital. We will see the beginning, and a large beginning, I should say, of stability again in the hospital for admissions.
With the new isolation facility, is basically a 4-room facility with a 7-bed capacity. So not just COVID patients can be addressed, but also patients like tuberculosis who also require isolation. Patients like that can also be addressed in a specific ward and not impact some of our regular patient ward or patient space as it did in the past. The intensive care unit now will have the capacity for individual beds for patient care, as opposed to a Nightingale style ward. Within each room, you will have the capacity to isolate a patient if there is a need to isolate a patient while they still need intensive care management, and also to dialyze a patient. Another big part of our renovation is where we are presently, the operating room facility. And some of us may know this facility is being renovated back to its where it was when it was built in 2011, and that is a 4-room operating suite, and it allows us or gives us the opportunity, once we have the necessary bed capacity, to have quite a few visiting surgeons. And I think that is something that the island of Grand Bahama can benefit from.
During all the construction, everything had to be removed out of the area. The spaces was totally empty. So all the wooden studs had to be replaced. All the flooring, the walls, all had to be replaced. And I mean, we built back a little stronger and better for the patients. The patients now, each bed will be equipped with oxygen and med gas. Rooms, you'll have rooms with 2 beds, some with the main areas. You'll have like 9 beds and 2 of the dorm areas, and adequate spacing between beds for patients. The new 3-story complex for the hospital, that should be about 5 feet above street level in case of flooding, that water don't come in back into the hospital. I mean, Grand Bahama, they're going to be proud of their new hospital.
Thank you. And that video would have been taken some time ago, so the progress has even progressed even further since then. We are rebuilding the East, the McLeanstown Administrative Complex, and the community dock in the East Grand Bahama, which house the Royal Bahamas Police Force, as well as the ferry offices which supported inter-island travel between Grand Bahama and Abacos. It is near completion. The Office of the Prime Minister in Grand Bahama has been provided with some funding to complete the rebuild of the administrative complex in conjunction with the Ministry of Works and the Disaster and Reconstruction Ministry. The Ministry of Works has also embarked upon the Grand Bahama Road Repairs and Carriageway Rehabilitation Project to rebuild our roads. War Construction continues and has been engaged to carry out work and continue to do so during the COVID-19 emergency orders. Their work, or their road work, patching team progressed steadily and expeditiously throughout the West Grand Bahama District. That includes both Central Grand Bahama and West Grand Bahama and Bimini constituencies. Reconstruction also of approximately 8 miles of road in the East and Central Grand Bahama also will be done by War Construction and supervised by the Ministry of Works. This project will be about a $6.1 million project. The Freeport Post Office project. Masako Investments has been awarded a $2.8 million contract and has already commenced work to carry out major renovations, including a complete new roof repair, installing of hurricane impact windows and doors, and other major works. The project we expect to be completed in 9 months and will employ some 50 persons. The Department of Agriculture Building Renovation Project. We are currently carrying out a major restoration of the agriculture building housing the Department of Agriculture and Fisheries, and also offered a base of operations for the Grand Bahama Beekeepers Cooperative, which was also launched out of the Youth Apiary Program in the Office of the Prime Minister. I also want to tell you about the historic school repairs and renovation project that just took place this year. We also completed one of the largest rebuilding and restoration projects to schools in Grand Bahama. It was a $4.5 million worth in contracts were awarded to complete major reconstruction to 15 schools in Grand Bahama. The Ministry of Education, the Ministry of Disaster Preparedness, Management, and Reconstruction, as well as the Office of the Prime Minister, jointly coordinated this project and employed some 150 Bahamians in this project. Just take a look at this. That's okay. If you want to see the school repair video, it is on our OPM Grand Bahama website. Take a look at it. You will be able to see all of the work that would have been done. The Holmes Rock Junior High School also is expected to be completed in February of 2021. Through the Small Home Repair Program, we are restoring hundreds of homes in Grand Bahama. The Disaster Reconstruction Authority has approved over 2,500 Grand Bahamians to receive assistance to repair their homes. Also, we see that, and that corresponds to the 2,954 who were registered. Grand Bahama Airport. The government is continuing the discussions with Hutchison Ports along with the Grand Bahama Port Authority with a view to coming to an agreement on the way forward for the rebuilding of our airport. In the interim, a temporary structure is indeed open and is fully functional, operating regular daily international and domestic flights. However, in addition to the existing facility, which is now open, work continues to proceed on the expansion of the temporary facility. This new facility is 8,500 square feet, which adds to the existing 8,200 square feet facility. Once completed, there will be 350 seats in total in the facility. It will have a new combined custom and immigration department, and it will be able to accommodate 300 to 400 passengers per hour. It is now currently 85% completed. The airport will require, and I want to say this, the airport will require a long-term, sustainable rebuilding plan. It has been destroyed by hurricanes several times. The airport has been rebuilt 3 times in the last 7 years, which signifies that a larger plan must be put in place. However, even as we work towards the final product, we will indeed continue to move forward with completing that airport. The Holistic Project, or the Royal Caribbean Project. This was signed in March of this year, just before COVID. Holistic signed a heads of agreement and an agreement for sale for the Grand Lucayan with the government for a massive development which was spanning 2 properties. Holistica remains committed to the project. Although it will be delayed due to COVID and Hurricane Dorian, we are currently reviewing their post-COVID-19 development plans and hope to fully turn over the hotel property before the end of this year. Carnival Project. In February of 2019, Carnival announced its plans for the construction of the massive port in East Grand Bahama, and proudly noted that once it was completed, Grand Bahama will be the home of Carnival's largest cruise port to date. It is expected that the project will have almost 1,000 jobs and also will have between 500 and 1,000 construction jobs. The Carnival Project is in the permitting stage, and we await Carnival's post-COVID plans. Our Tech Hub plans. To this end, the government in October executed a Memorandum of Understanding with Cisco Systems. The MOU, amongst other matters, stated that Cisco will assist the government to develop a strategy for an innovation center. And we expect that that innovation center will be done in partnership with the College of the Bahamas Northern Campus. Cisco will also facilitate the best practices and technical guidance in order to assist us in building an ICT hub. They will also help us with domestic and international marketing campaigns to best position Grand Bahama as an ICT hub. Through the existing networking academy, Cisco will also assist in training 100 software developers to build in-country talent based on Cisco standards which are recognized around the globe. Also, those participants can access Cisco Talent Bridge and their Talent Bridge platform in order to identify possible job openings on Cisco and some of its partners. Cisco and Btvi have already begun training for this program. We expect applications to be available in December and we will launch the training session this January. I want to talk to you really about the Btvi ICT Skills Development Program. This is important because if we are going to create a true technology hub, then we must build human capacity to do so. So we started a program in our high schools. It is a program of children between the 9th grade and the 12th grade. And those children have been able to access Cisco, CompTIA, website developments, software developments, and cyber security. The first cohort started in the summer of 2018. The second cohort started in the summer of 2019. Although we were delayed as a result of COVID, we now expect that the third cohort will start in December. The program was offered both to BTVI Grand Bahama and New Providence campuses. And to date, there have been some 300 students, Bahamian students, who have successfully been trained in this program. And there is an additional 100 that will be added this year. And I might say, out of those additional 100, we also expect there to be family island students who will be able to participate virtually. Finally, the Reef Committee. The government has also entered into discussions with the Revitalization and Expansion of the Economy of Freeport Committee, called the Reef Committee. This committee was established by stakeholders and the Grand Bahama Port Authority in an effort to engage with licensees, business owners, and the government to move Freeport forward, to move the entire island of Grand Bahama forward and the economy of Grand Bahama forward. The government has been presently meeting with the Reef Committee. We are seeing some very fruitful plans come out of this, and we will have an action plan that will take concrete steps to move the island's economy forward. And we want to thank the Grand Bahama Port Authority and all of the Grand Bahama stakeholders who have participated in this venture. I want to say how thankful I am for the staff in the Office of the Prime Minister in Nassau and the Office of the Prime Minister in Grand Bahama. It has been a privilege to serve. We will continue the fight against COVID, and we will continue our rebuilding efforts. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you, Minister. We will now entertain questions from the media. I'd like to begin with Mr. Matthew Moxie from Eyewitness News. Mr. Moxie?
Yes, good afternoon. Minister Thompson, the Prime Minister recently announced that Grand Bahama is of concern, and according to the latest dashboard, that island recorded, I think, the highest amount of cases at last report for a single day. Are you concerned at all about this, and do you believe tighter measures are required to curb the spike in cases we are seeing on Grand Bahama?
So, Mr. Moxie, I want to thank you for your most important question about COVID. The last dashboard did indicate an increase of cases or daily cases in Grand Bahama. I've recently spoken to the head of our COVID task force, Dr. Bartlett, on this very same issue. And they are doing their contact tracing. They are also doing all of the on-the-ground investigation to see the source of this recent spike. They will provide the necessary recommendations. And once they provide the necessary recommendations, it will be provided to the cabinet. A decision will be taken, and the competent authority will then make the final decision after consultations with and recommendations from the medical team and cabinet, and then those decisions would be made. So I would not want to preempt any of those decisions that are being made, but just simply say that on-the-ground investigations are being done presently, and I'm sure the appropriate action is going to be taken afterward. But I do want to say, and use this as an opportunity, and thank you for allowing me the opportunity to do so, to just remind Grand Bahamians that we are still in the middle of this fight, and that we must continue to be vigilant, avoid large crowds, be careful when you are at work, adhere to all of the health protocols, continue to wear your mask everywhere you go in public. And we want you to take care of yourselves and take care of your family. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Moxie. Just before you go to your second question, I'd like to remind, I'd like to make members of the media aware that the acting director for the department, Carol Roach, is also on the line, as is our ICT specialist, Christy Powell, in the event that you have questions for them. And now, Mr. Moxie, your second question, please.
Yes, my second question is also for the minister. With this shift now to e-governance, can we see a reduction in the staff needed in the civil service?
Thank you again. And that's, again, a very, very good question, Mr. Moxie. I'll make a comment, and then I'll also ask for the Permanent Secretary, Ms. Elise Delancey, also to make a comment on this, because this is a topic really that has been talked about a lot. Short answer is no. The short answer is that the public service is going to be retrained when it comes to these particular items, when it comes to the digital transformation of a sector. And so what we have seen also in the experience is either those existing public servants have been trained to utilize the new system, or they are moved from one place to another place where they are most needed and where their skills can be used and utilized in the other location. But we do not expect that, given the digital transformation that we are going through, that there's going to be any layoffs or any terminations.
I can only concur with the minister. We have promised Prime Minister in this that there will be no reduction in staff. What we have said, however, is that there will be new job roles for staff as we move along. We've seen a report from a well-known university in the States that says 44% of the jobs that we now know will not be available in the next 25 years. That does not mean that the people will go. It means that persons must be willing in this new dispensation to learn new jobs, to learn new skills as we move into a new and digital Bahamas. So with that now, I'd like to invite Ms. Gillian Gray from Our News to ask her first question.
Good afternoon. My question is for the minister. I would just like an update on the Grand Bahama Airport. Basically, renovations, upgrades that has been done to Grand Bahama's airport, as well as the government's purchasing of that airport, and a timeline as to when we can see that closed.
Thank you very much, Ms. Gray. I could just go back and read the portion, but as I said, we are continuing the negotiations with Hutchison Ports. Those we are in meetings with them on a regular basis. There's a number of things in that transaction that has to be completed. We have completed some, and we are continuing with others. At present, as I indicated, there is a temporary facility that is open. They are receiving international and domestic flights. There is a extension to that facility. There were photographs that were shown about that extension. That extension is larger than what is presently there. It will expand the seating area. It will expand the customs and the immigration area. It will have refreshments. It will have additional restrooms. It should be able to accommodate, we are advised, some 350 passengers being able to move at one time. And so the progression of that facility is continuing. But as we indicated, it requires a long-term plan. And that long-term plan has to speak to the resilience on that property. It requires us to look at where we build, how we rebuild, what we rebuild, because we've rebuilt that airport 3 times in 7 years. And so I don't know of anybody who would say it makes sense for us to build the same thing that was there before. And so that's we are about to embark upon that study, and we are continuing to move ahead with the negotiations. So thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Gray, and thank you, Minister. And your second question, Ms. Gray?
My second question would just be about the Ecuador oil spill. That oil spill, I spoke to some environmentalists earlier this week, and they said that only 10% of that has been cleaned up, and we are a year from out from Dorian. And so, just concerned for the water table, for the environment, plants, animals that are in that area, especially now that and the government has allowed BPC to go ahead with oil drilling. So, there are lots of concerns going on here, but specifically, if you could just speak to the Ecuador oil spill.
Sure. I understand your question, and for East End residents, it is an important question. Equinor has been engaged in the cleanup from recently after the storm. So they've been engaged in this cleanup for some time. This is being managed by the Ministry of Environment, not directly in our ministry. But I would dispute, and I'm most certainly not aware that only 10% of the oil has been cleaned up. They have done an extensive cleanup in that area. And I can recall also the Minister for Environment who spoke to the destruction in the area and the necessity to have it cleaned up. We also want to commend the Ministry of Environment for passing the new Environmental Protection Act because that actually strengthens the government's ability in ensuring that any future cleanups that would have to happen, that they can be done in a speedy way, and that we can hold anyone who is responsible accountable. This also gives me an opportunity to speak to the recent oil spills, or recent oil dumping that has taken place in Grand Bahama. There have been 2 incidents that have been found in Grand Bahama. And I will say that the first one that was found, there have been persons who have been brought before the court for these incidents. We cannot say a whole lot more with respect to the first one or the second one because they are currently under police investigation. And the police have taken this so serious that they have put together a complete task force to deal with these incidents and any further incidents. And so I also want to commend Mr. Greenslade, who's the officer in charge here in Grand Bahama, also Ms. Pinder, who is the officer who is leading that task force, and we hope to have some very fruitful results. But thank you for your question.
Thank you, Ms. Gray. We'll now go on to Ms. Tyler Simonet from JCN and to her first question, please. Ms. Simonet? Okay, we'll go on to Mrs. Karen Bain from Global Radio in Freeport with her first question.
Hello, good afternoon. My question is for Minister Thompson. There's been over a week since our borders have reopened. In light of the impact that COVID-19 has had on our tourist industry, sir, where can we expect to see major cruise ships return to the island of Grand Bahama?
Hi, Karen. Thank you for your question. And it is, again, a very, very important question. There have been two major cruise ships that have come to Grand Bahama. We normally have those cruise ships that come from Carnival, and there's also been a number of cruise ships that regularly come from Norwegian. We also have the two ferry boats, that is Valeria, as well as Bahamas Paradise. We are in discussions with both the ferries as to how and when they will be able to safely bring tourists and residents back to Grand Bahama. And so we should know the answer to that question shortly after we've continued having those discussions. We know that health is very important when it comes to bringing back and forward those passengers on the ferries. Unfortunately, we are still awaiting the full clearance of the CDC, who I believe have put forward a pathway for the major cruise ships to come forward and come to the Bahamas. This announcement was made by the Minister of Tourism. And so we remain hopeful that at the earliest, those cruise ships will be able to come back, not just to Grand Bahama, but that they would be able to come back to Nassau and come back to the other islands that they go to as well in the Bahamas. So we are closely monitoring that and hopeful that they will be able to come back shortly. Thank you.
Thank you, Minister. Mrs. Bain, do you have a second question for us?
Yes, thank you very much, Minister Thompson. I appreciate you answering the question. My second question is for you as well. Due to the COVID-19 pandemic, many residents of Grand Bahama and Abaco were not able to take advantage of the exigency order. Is the government considering extending the order to assist those persons who have lost their jobs and cannot at this time try to rebuild by replacing furniture, appliances, and of course, building material? Is the government considering to extend the order beyond the December 31st deadline?
Again, thanks, Karen. This, again, I mean, is a hugely important question, I'm sure, for residents of Grand Bahama and for Abaco. As you know, the government already extended this from July to December. At present, it ends in December. However, it is a matter that Cabinet has to decide. And so we will await to see whether or not Cabinet extends it, but at present, I'm unable to say whether it's going to be extended or not. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Bain. I'm now going to invite Ms. Tyler Simonet to ask her first question.
Oh, can you hear me now? Is it okay?
We certainly can.
Okay, sorry for the inconvenience. Good afternoon to everybody. My first question is, in September, it was reported that by the GB Utility Company, that Grand Bahama's water potability is only at about 70%. So that means that some areas are still left without potable water since Hurricane Dorian. Has that area made any progress since then?
Thank you very much, Ms. Simonet. The latest information that I've received from the GB Utility Company is that they are still about 75 to 80% complete. And so they are continuing to work on the balance of those areas that need to be fully brought up to speed. But the latest information that I have is that they are still about 75 to 80%. So they still have work to do. Thank you.
Thank you, Minister. Ms. Simonette, your second question.
Yes, thank you so much for that response, Minister. My second question is in regards to the small homes repairs program. I understand that there was an influx of people who applied, and it was said that it was very taxing and that the government doesn't have all the money. I believe Minister Aaron Lewis said that the government doesn't have all the money as of right now to meet those claims. Has that program seen any progress, and can people expect to see their claims met, anytime soon?
So I would not want to put any words in the minister's mouth, and I think the best person to answer that question, because obviously the small home repair program in Grand Bahama as well as in Abaco is under the Minister Ira Lewis, and so he would be best able to answer that question. I do apologize, but he would be the person who is best able to answer that question. I would not want to speak to that on his behalf.
Thank you, Minister. Now we're going to go on to Mr. Royston Jones from Eyewitness Digital. Your first question, please.
Good afternoon. Thank you. My first question concerns the sale of the Grand Lucine and the finalization of that deal. Of course, the resort is expected to be impetus for economic activity on the island, but there's no idea at this point as to when that sale, although there's some variables, of course, could be finalized and when that resort could reopen with employment. Is it possible to get an update on the status of the sale and the reopening and employment status?
Yeah, Mr. Jones, again, important question for definitely for us in Grand Bahama, and for us, obviously. The Grand Lucine deal is a hugely important deal, and the government is working on this feverishly. But I want to also indicate, some time ago we executed the heads of agreement, and we executed the agreement for sale. Unfortunately, Dorian hit. Dorian brought its own challenges with respect to moving ahead with the deal. Then came COVID, and as you may be aware, the cruise ships are a huge part of the entire Grand Lucine deal, for the hotel portion of it, as well as for the new cruise port portion of it. After COVID hit, obviously, and we are very thankful that Royal Caribbean and ITM, Holistica, indicated that they are still wanting to move ahead with this deal. They were firm in confirming that they wanted to move ahead with this deal. However, they have put forward some amendments to the timelines. And those amendments will require us to take a close look at those amendments. And that is what is presently being done now. As we've indicated, our hope is to complete the full turnover to them by the end of this year. But we are still going ahead and continuing those talks with them in terms of assessing their post-COVID plans.
Thank you, Minister. Mr. Jones, do you have a second question for us?
I do, thank you. It's just a follow-up to the Grand Lucine matter about the employment there. Can you say how many employees? I mean, there was a plan set out that there'd be, because of change of ownership, there may be a disengaging and a re-engage of employees. But can you say how many people are currently employed there and what their status has been throughout COVID-19? Are they the beneficiaries of NIB or still being covered by a portion of the hotel? And how many are we talking about?
So the information that I have recently is that there are 35 presently employed, and that the balance of those have been terminated. And as we had indicated, that process needed to take place in order for us to have a complete turnover of the hotel. And so we are again following the process in order for us to do the turnover of the hotel. It was anticipated, agreed that this would happen, and so we are moving ahead with respect to the full turnover. And so at present, there are about 35 employees who are presently there. So thank you.
Mr. Jones, that was a follow-up question. Do you have a second question?
Thank you very much for asking. I did have a brief third question, and it concerns Hurricane Dorian and whether the government, although some burials have been completed this year, whether the government was minded in Grand Bahama to erect a memorial site to remember those missing and those dead. I have not heard anything, but wanted to ask you about that at some point.
Again, thank you, Mr. Jones. Now, there actually was a memorial that has been erected. It was erected by the Grand Bahama Port Authority, and it was erected at the foot of the East End Bridge. During the 1-year anniversary, there was actually a ceremony that was done at that memorial. And we had, it was led by our Deputy Prime Minister, and we also had members of those persons who lost their loved ones also represented there as well. So there is a memorial that has been erected. It was erected by the Grand Bahama Port Authority. And I could not tell you of any plans with respect to any further memorial sites that are going to be erected.
Thank you, Minister. From the Tribune, we invite Ms. Denise Maycock to ask her first question.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. I just wanted to go back to the illegal oil dumping incidents. We already have issues in terms of our potable water in Grand Bahama, and the local activists seems to think, not activists, environmentalists, seems to think that the government has dropped the ball in terms of monitoring large companies and their disposal of used oil. Mr. Thompson, does the government have such monitoring in place for large companies? And can you tell us the procedures? Can you tell us those procedures?
Thank you very much, Denise. What I can tell you is that the government passed the new Environmental Protection Act. And the new Environmental Protection Act has the most sweeping powers and monitoring provisions that we've ever seen in the history of the country. We have, and I can also tell you that this is an issue that is presently under discussion with the government and the Reef team as well. As you may be aware, it has historically been the case that the Grand Bahama Port Authority has had the responsibility for environmental issues in the Freeport area and have been assisting also with environmental matters, not just in the Freeport area, but also assisting with environmental matters throughout the island. And so we are presently in discussions, and that is the Ministry of Environment, the Office of the Prime Minister, and the Grand Bahama Port Authority and the Reef Committee on how we can address that very same question with respect to the large industrial companies and ensuring that we put in place all of the necessary protections. But I would not want to connect the incidents with the recent oil dumping and any of the industrial companies. That is a police matter, and so I would not want my answer in any way to affect the future of the police investigations. And so we trust that the police will continue their investigations and will, once the investigation is completed, whoever is responsible, that they will be brought before the law and brought before the courts. Thank you.
Thank you, Minister. Ms. Maycock, you're invited to ask your second question.
Sure. With Grand Bahama in such an economic predicament or challenges, I know the government had also maybe talked about projects like Oban and also, I guess, the Royal Oasis and the Xanadu properties. I mean, can you tell us whether or not the government will be considering that and seeing that we have such high unemployment now in Grand Bahama and the economy is really down right now?
So the Prime Minister has indicated that, first of all, those projects that are on the drawing board, that we will do our best to expedite those projects. There are two that I could probably speak to say that we are continuing to work with them to move them forward from an approval stage to actually shovel in the ground. They are the West Atlantic Medical School that was recently approved, and they also gotten heads of agreement that was signed. They are now moving ahead with the legal documents for their property and have indicated their desire to break ground and start construction before the end of the year or as soon as they're able to complete those legal documents. That's a significant project in terms of the construction, and so we hope that we'll be able to move that project forward as well. We've been recently talking to a company called Clean Marine, who is presently operating a facility in the shipyard, and they are now looking at embarking upon a new project. And so we are working with them as well, and we expect that there's going to be some construction work as well as an expansion to their existing facility. And so we continue to work with potential developers. There are people who are calling us every day with respect to inquiries for developments in Grand Bahama. And so that's part of our role here in Freeport, is to continue to see them through those processes. And so we're going to continue to do that. Thank you.
Thank you, Minister, and thank you, Ms. Maycock. I now invite Mrs. Christina Dragovich from our TV to ask her first question.
Good afternoon. Thank you. Minister, you'd mentioned the Committee for the Revitalization and Expansion of the Economy of Freeport, Reef. When will we learn which of those recommendations will be put into action?
Thank you very much, Christina. I hope very soon. We are doing some extensive work with them, and we are meeting. One of the first projects that we were tackling with them was the same environmental issue, and we expect to have some very fruitful results of not just changes in policy, but we expect to have some fruitful results on the ground as to being able to see, feel, and touch some results as a result of what we are talking with them. We have met with them also with respect to the investment requirements for Grand Bahama, and how we along with the Port Authority can move the investment process along quicker, how we can remove stumbling blocks from these investors, and how we can get them approved in a much quicker way. We've seen that some of their reports are consistent with the Prime Minister's Recovery Committee reports in terms of what should be happening nationally. So those are items I think that we are also going to be able to see some fruitful results on. We also are meeting with them on strategies as to how we can market Freeport in a better way. So we expect that there's also going to be some fruitful results on that part as well. We've said from the beginning, we didn't want to just enter into talks to see another report or to see another document that everybody just reads. But we want to see that at the end of the day, once we've completed the discussions and the talks with them, that there is a real action plan with timelines on what we are delivering and on what they are delivering. And we fully expect that that's going to happen. They have been fully engaged. They've been also excited by the engagement. I believe they see the fruitfulness in us having these discussions, and they also see the urgency upon which we need to act. Not just talk, not just write a report, but they see the urgency on which we are going to act. So to answer your question, I hope we will see it as soon as possible.
Thank you, Minister. Mrs. Dragovich, do you have a second question for us?
Thank you very much. That's it for me.
Ms. Jasper Ward from the Nassau Guardian, we invite you to ask your first question.
Good afternoon. In its executive summary, the Economic Recovery Committee recommended that the government gradually devolve the rights, powers, and obligations presently held by the Grand Bahama Port Authority to a local authority comprised of current Grand Bahama Port Authority licensees, port group representatives, and central or local government representatives. Is this a consideration of the government? I note that the report would have said that this is something that would have high economic impact for the island.
So again, thank you, Jasper. Yes, the report did indicate that, and as a result of what was indicated in the report, those are a part of the Reef discussions in terms of the structure of the Grand Bahama Port Authority. So I would not want to say anything further than that, other than they are a part of the discussions that we are having with the Grand Bahama Port Authority in those Reef talks.
All right.
Go ahead, Ms. Jasper.
Thank you very much.
Ward.
My second question, in June, the Prime Minister would have said that the government had not scrapped plans to build a new state-of-the-art hospital on Grand Bahama. Can you provide an update? I know you spoke briefly about the Rand Memorial earlier in your remarks, but can you provide an update as to the state or the future of this new hospital? Any timelines? Have any contracts or anything been happening?
Yeah, again, good question. What's happening at present is the hospital authority is conducting assessments, and those assessments are geared towards the location of where a brand new hospital could be. And as was indicated in the video, and I believe has been indicated publicly by some of the hospital officials, that a portion of land has been cleared on the side of the hospital, but there's also vacant land that is owned by the Public Hospital Authority. So as I understand it, an assessment is being conducted as to the best location for a standalone brand new hospital. And once the assessment is completed, then plans will be put in place as to moving ahead with that brand new hospital. But we do want to say that, as we've indicated, we hope that come November, early December, that there will be some normalcy brought back to the Rand Memorial Hospital, and there will also be some more resilience to the Rand Memorial Hospital as well. We also want to say that the facility, which I believe had some approximately 20 or so beds, which was the Cancer Association site, will also be kept, and that will also add some additional space to the new facility at the RAN. That will add some additional space. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Minister. On behalf of the Minister, I wish to thank Permanent Secretary Brown, Acting Director Carol Roach, and ICT Specialist Christy Powell for remaining on standby, the staff of DTAD and BIS for their patience and guidance, and you, the members of the media and our listening audience. Thank you very much, and that concludes the report of Minister James Kwesi Thompson.